Alright, dudes. So, I've had a few people ask me, where have you been all my life? No, but people have been asking what the deal was with me going away for a couple of months, and I thought, you know what? It's relatively interesting, so I will summarise. So I'm just going to sail the seas and summarise basically what has been going down. Nothing too crazy, but it is a bit interesting. So, it all begins many, many decades ago. Nah, not really, but it begins like maybe a year ago. Now, you could argue it's just troubles with a neighbour, right? Which you'd think, troubles with a neighbour? That can't be that bad. Thing is, my neighbour has had the police show up surrounding his house with machine guns in the past, which adds a bit of weight to the claim, and also is somewhat psychotically unhinged. He has a handler who I've had to deal with a few times, who always comes around and says, no, he's just a bit crazy, don't worry about it. So anyway, this guy, I've always got along okay with, but then one year, last year, I did not cut my hedge, right? Again, minor deal, you'd think, whatever, no big drama can come from not cutting a hedge. Well, that's where the story begins. So, I didn't cut my hedge. It grew a little bit tall. Big deal, right? Big deal. Could have just said, yo dude, can you cut your hedge? Did not happen. What ended up happening, I'll skim over this because it's not the most important part, but it's good. It's a good intro to the story. What ended up happening was I woke up one morning and him and a bunch of his friends were in my garden. My back garden, which there's no access to, but his property, I guess, has a gate that goes into my garden. So he was there, in my garden, and he'd totally cut down my hedge to the point where it looked pretty dead. It had no leaves. I mean, it's grown back, so I guess it was okay. But anyway, he said, I've cut your hedge for you. Now, give me £30 for the privilege, right? £30, like $40. Now, it doesn't matter how much it was. I was like, no, I ain't paying you for that. I didn't even ask you to do that. I would have cut it myself. I've got all the stuff to cut it. It's just, you know, cold lately or whatever. So, he then threatened to, what was the words? He was going to kick me up and down the street. Fair enough. Not really fair enough, but you know. You have to take the things in your stride when you got a crazy neighbour. So I did what any sane individual would. And went to the police. Because he'd already proven himself a threat with the police surrounding his house. And anyway, they said, there's nothing we can really do about it. It's just talk. Which I guess is fair enough. And I said, well, what about them coming onto my property? And they said, nah, in Scotland, there's no law against that. Which is a messed up thing if you think about it, right? It's quite interesting. That's what I learned that day. In Scotland, there is no law against people coming onto your property. Like, it's a weird one. You'd think there would be. But the police guy said they could literally have a party in your garden and there'd be nothing that the police could do about it. So yeah, there's that. So anyway, a couple of weeks later, I had a chat with this dude and we made peace, right? I explained, look dude, you were acting uncool, etc. And he said, well, you know, whatever. But we ended up making peace. We shook hands. And all was good, right? So, after that, peace. Relative peace. Until about April, a couple of months later, when he knocks on my door. And he says, hey, I noticed you've got a driveway that you never use. And I've got 2 cars. Could I store one of my cars in your driveway? So me, being, you know, the peaceful tact master that I am, said, sure. No problem. I don't have a car. I don't use my driveway. What the hell? It's not hurting anyone. Sure thing, dude. You can keep your car in my driveway. Again, no real problems. Cut to around November, maybe. And I get home from work one day, and there's a letter from the police, and it says, "We want to talk to you. Come down to the police station as soon as possible." Okay, fair enough. Can do. So me and my girlfriend go down to the police station. What's the deal? They say, "So, what's the deal with this car in your driveway?" Instantly, I'm like, uh-oh. They start asking me about this car, and I'm like, it's not my car, it's my neighbour's car. I just let him store it there. And they say, all right, okay. Do you know what's been going on with your neighbour? And I'm like, not really. I know he's a bit crazy. I know he's been in prison before, for like 10 years. Because I have a friend who's actually been in prison with him. But anyway, then the police guy says, oh, cut back a bit. After I got the letter from the police, I went outside, and one of my other neighbours from across the street said, "The police were snooping around your house earlier, and they were looking at the car." And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah, there was like 4 or 5 of them, and they surrounded the car, and then they just kind of left." And I was like, "All right. Well, I got a letter from them, so it must be something to do with that." So anyway, I was relaying all this to the police guy. And then he was trying to summarise it all. They also made me give fingerprints and DNA, which was a bit uncouth in my opinion, but you know what? If it's necessary, fair enough. So they could verify that I had never even touched the car. So I guess that worked in my favour, but now I guess they've got my fingerprints and DNA on file. So, no evil mastermind for me anytime soon. Anyway, he was relaying all my stuff back to me because it was like a, not a sworn testament, but it was like, you know, my witness thing. And he said, "So, when you were talking to your neighbour, that's when they told you that we took something out the car?" And I was like, no, I never said they took anything out the car. What did they take out the car? And the police guy looked at me like, oh shit, I've really screwed the pooch on this one. But then he just doubled down and was like, all right, so they didn't tell you about the masses of drugs that we took out the car? It's like, no, I never knew anything about no drugs. What's this all about? Turns out, my neighbour had been using that car to store his drugs in when he wasn't dealing them, or he was using it as like a transfer car for like taking drugs to people. And so they said, I was like, how much drugs are we talking about here? And like, what kind? And they said it was like, I don't know how much, but that it was a lot of, I think it was heroin, right? It wasn't like weed or anything. And so that kind of was a little bit annoying, I'm going to be honest, finding out that my good nature had been abused like that, and now I was in all this hassle with the police. Obviously, there was no problem for me, but it's just hassle that you don't want to deal with, you know? Having the police suspect you of being some sort of drug dealer or involved in all that stuff. And also having masses of evidence in your driveway, right? Not great. So anyway, I'm like, so what's the deal with this? And they were like, oh, we're gonna arrest him. I get home and he's gone. My neighbour has gone and the car has gone, but there's broken glass all over my driveway. Fair enough. Makes sense that they would get rid of it as soon as possible. And then not a word, not a word So then, cut to a couple weeks later, and my neighbour, I get another letter through the door saying, we need you to let us know any movements that you make, because you may have to come to court to be a witness. And I'm like, oh shit, that is one thing I do not want. I do not want to go to court and be a witness against my drug dealing neighbour who's been to prison before, has threatened me in the past, and has had armed police response units show up at his house. There's no way out of it. I went to them and I was like, look, do I have to do this? And they were like, yeah, if you don't, then we can arrest you. Brilliant. So now I'm stuck in this situation. Not the most joyous of prospects, I would say. By this point, it was starting to kind of affect me a bit. I was not exactly working well. But this isn't a sob story, I just think it's an interesting story. I'm actually okay with it all now. So anyway, then my neighbour shows up again. Brilliant, just what I need. And he starts paying way too much attention to me. And I notice on one of the walls near my house, there is a big spray painted wall saying, someone is a snitch. But the name has been spray painted over. So that could not be me. There could be another snitch running about. I guess technically I am a snitch, although not really, I would say. All I did was say he put his car in my driveway. Everything else is on him for being inept. But, you know, again, not a great sign. And guys start showing up at my neighbour's house. And every time I leave the house, they're looking at me. And they're watching me every time I enter my house. And it's just not great. And the police are like, nothing we can do about it. Nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. I'm like, man, why the hell am I paying taxes to you guys? I mean, sure, technically, he hasn't done nothing wrong. Apart from the fact that he threatened to beat me up. And is known to have a violent past and is known to be mentally unhinged. You know, just deal with it. So, my girlfriend, bastion of common sense that she is, says, let's move house. Problem is, I can't afford to move house. I've been taking time off work because I've just not been in the right mental state to be dealing with it, what with all this going down. So I'm a bit low on funds, you know. So I can't move house. And I guess that's basically it. Looking back on it, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I've been overreacting to this situation. But I'm not sure. I'm not good at judging these things. I think it's quite stressful, honestly. Now, it's still going on. I'm still waiting on being summoned to court. And my neighbour's still got guys watching me. And I'm still not exactly back at work. So that's not great. But I feel like I've settled down a lot now. And I think getting back into the routine is actually being pretty good for me. So basically, that's it. That's the mystery solved. That's why I have been gone. Because my neighbour is a crazy, violent drug dealer, and I have got wrapped up in his mess. So, you know, there you go. Mystery solved. But, yeah, I'm alright. And streaming again is definitely helping me to take my mind off things and get back to being my normal self without worrying about all that crap. I mean, it's been a while now since there was any sort of interaction with him. It's just the fact that he constantly has guys watching me is not the most great of circumstances. It doesn't do much for my well-being, but it's fine. It's fine. And that's it. So as to what I'm going to be doing, I don't actually know if I'm going to go back to work. Because, well, I don't really enjoy it there, honestly. It doesn't really help either. So I might just quit and find another job that's a bit less stressful in that regard. But that's a whole nother topic. As for the channel, I'm going through Warhammer, doing my Chaos Heroes Only, which I really enjoy. We're also completing Pathfinder, which is great. And then I might do Pathfinder again, because they've got that new DLC, which has the Tiefling, and I can't remember what the new class is called. But I'd like to try that out. But I need to think about that one. And in my off time, I'm playing Sea of Thieves, which is this game, which is pretty fun. So, yeah, things are potentially looking up, I think. I feel like I have a bit more direction now. I'm not just paranoid all day. And basically that's it. So I'll end this video here. I don't want it to be too long, but a few people have asked me, where have you been? So I thought, you know what? I'll do you the solid of actually letting you guys know. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. I'll catch you guys on a live stream. Adios.